culture depicts who we are. Culture defines who we are. It's a source of our identity, and this concerns both tangible heritage, the monuments, sites, museums, and the collections in the museums, but also intangible cultural heritage. So the traditions, practices, beliefs of the communities. And this is why it is important source of strength for the communities during any emergencies, not only during the wars and conflicts, but also natural hazards and disasters. It's important for humankind to be able to resort to something that defines normalcy for them. I think we see an increasing number of cultural heritage sites damaged and destroyed during conflicts. UNESCO is not an organization who defines whether the culture has been targeted or it's a collateral damage. But we can confirm that there is an increasing number of heritage that is not only of outstanding universal value, like what is included in the UNESCO World Heritage List, but also those churches, places of worship, centers for cultural activities, libraries, museums, that fall victim to conflicts. The Hague Convention dates back to 1954, and this is in an immediate aftermath of the Second World War. It's the first convention in the field of culture, so the significance of it is that the international community came out of the Second World War and said, never again we want culture to suffer in conflicts. So the main idea behind the convention is really to protect culture in armed conflicts. But what is important, or the main message of the convention, is that this commitment has to be applied both on the heritage of the country's own territory, but also that it makes a commitment. The countries who ratify the convention make a commitment also to respect the heritage of the other nations. So I think it embraces the diversity of the heritage of humankind. And what is also, I think, important about the Hague Convention is that although it speaks about the protection of heritage during armed conflicts, actually the main mechanisms for the protection of this heritage need to be put in place at peacetime. So the main message is also about preparedness. We need to be sure that we have mechanisms in place that protect our heritage during armed conflict. So the blue shield emblem is used to mark buildings that are of historic and cultural value. So those that constitute cultural property. And what we see is that here in Ukraine also the blue shield emblem is widely used. Very often it's put on buildings in cities, and in Lviv there are so many of these historic buildings that are marked with the blue shield emblem. So this is just the Ukrainian authorities saying this is a historic landmark, don't touch it. But the blue shield emblem has also different kinds. There are also specific configurations of the blue shield emblem that mark those sites that are either under special protection or under enhanced protection of the second protocol. The Committee of the Second Protocol is a body of representatives of those countries that have ratified the second protocol. And it's meant to be a more agile body who can monitor the heritage protection in between the sessions of the meetings of states parties to the second protocol. So the main purpose of the committee is to monitor the heritage preservation, but also come together in situations of emergencies. For instance, now we, as we have hostilities also in the region of the Middle East, Lebanon has requested the inclusion of additional 39 sites to be included under enhanced protection. And this is why the committee will be convened for an extraordinary session to decide upon that in a very agile and operational manner. So in 2 days' time, we will have the committee to take the decision about the inscription of the sites, Lebanese sites, under enhanced protection, and also the request about international assistance, financial assistance, to help Lebanon protect its heritage sites. So the ad hoc monitoring tool is a mechanism that can be also triggered by our member states if they feel that there has not been enough information gathered about the damage to a site. And the ad hoc mechanism also allows to use different tools in our, that are available for UNESCO. We can do the monitoring of sites through satellite images. UNESCO works with UNITAR, who has, it's a sister agency, which has a satellite program. And when we want to monitor damage to sites that are not accessible for civilians, we very often also resort to satellite images, and we look at before and after images to see whether there has been damage to a site. So ad hoc monitoring provides all these different tools and possibilities, in addition to in situ assessment of damage to the site. So the alliance, civil-military alliance, was launched on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the Hague Convention. And we wanted to emphasize through the establishment of this alliance the role that the military play in the protection of cultural property. The 1954 Hague Convention is the only cultural heritage or cultural convention of UNESCO that actually also gives a role for the protection of heritage and cultural property to the military. But very often we see that actually, the civil experts and culture professionals and the military, they do not collaborate, and that's so the purpose of the civil-military alliance is to promote this collaboration, exchange of information. Also, very often military have to help when it comes to evacuation of collections. So it's important that we foster this partnership between the civil and the military. But the purpose is also to promote the idea that is actually embedded in the Hague Convention, to have also dedicated units within the military and armed forces of people, of military, who are specialized in the protection of cultural heritage. So it's also a means for us to raise awareness about these aspects of the convention. I think that Ukraine and the war against Ukraine has considerably changed how UNESCO and the Hague Convention has worked at the operational level. The second protocol was developed in the wake of the Balkan Wars, so it's a kind of operational arm of the convention. We now, thanks to due to the war in Ukraine, we actually can see how these operational aspects of the convention can be applied in real life. The second protocol has a couple of mechanisms that have been of interest to Ukraine. For instance, the enhanced protection. So Ukraine was among the first to include many of its sites in the lists of properties under enhanced protection. Ukraine has now the highest number among the countries in the world of the properties, cultural properties that are inscribed under enhanced protection, 46. So it has demonstrated that this is something of value, because when a site is put under enhanced protection, this provides to the site the highest level of immunity against violations, and it's if the site is targeted or damaged, it may constitute a war crime. So this is a special elevated status of the site. Ukraine has also requested UNESCO to look into violations of respect for enhanced protected sites. So we have had a study, we have conducted a study to understand and analyze about the accountability for damage and destruction of the sites. And this eminent group of legal experts found that the Hague Convention, the main text of the convention, but also the wider humanitarian law actually provides sufficient protection for the heritage. So any sites, as I said, which is either of outstanding universal value, so which is part of the World Heritage List, or those sites that are under enhanced protection, if they are targeted, it can constitute a war crime. So there are other tools and methodologies that we have developed and been able to pilot in Ukraine. So I would say that Ukraine has allowed us, or the war against Ukraine has put into test the operational dimensions of the Hague Convention.